So how are we doing the intro? Are we going to be like, previously at E3?
Maybe. Previously.
Even though last year wasn't E3.
Previously at Summer Games Fest 2021.
It wasn't even Summer Games Fest, it was just the Xbox Gaming Showcase, wasn't it?
I don't know. I really don't know what last year was, if I'm being honest, Dan.
Previously, during the world being on fire, Microsoft announced some things. They're going to do the same thing this year. Let's talk about it.
That's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
It's not a bad introduction, actually, is it?
Previously on E3, Microsoft announced some things. Now we're here to talk about some other things they might announce. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to do this with the document open and you and the chat open, but I think we'll be okay. It'll be okay.
If we're not, then, you know, it doesn't change much from the normal podcasts.
No, that's true. That's true.
You know, it's, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Why is that taking forever to load? Come on, it's only Wikipedia. How are you?
So welcome to Video Games and Chill, the first episode of this year's PrE3, where we discuss what we think might be happening at this year's E3 showcase. And this episode is all about Microsoft and Bethesda, the big two, the two giant corporations who've come together to create one super corp.
They created a Justice League, Sam. They called it a Justice League. It's a League of Justice, and they are based. Both of them are based in the icy cold wastes of America.
The icy cold wastes of the US of A.
Yeah, they're both based. I think actually Microsoft are based in Seattle and Bethesda are based in somewhere.
They're based in the American tundra.
Yes. Maryland.
So Dan, my first big question about this conference was, do we see Halo Infinite?
Yes. That is probably, you know, of all of the questions you could have, that is probably the one which is easiest to answer.
We definitely see it, you think, and you think it's still definitely coming this year?
Yeah, it's definitely coming this year. They've already bumped it by a year. There's already people dropping that mad knowledge about crunch being implemented. It's coming. It'll probably be what they open the conference with new gameplay, because obviously that it wasn't well received last year, despite the fact that I enjoyed what I saw. So there'll probably be a new gameplay reveal, and then it'll open the show with the release date reveal, which is probably going to be, I want to say it's going to be November 7th. That's a Sunday, so it might be November 5th. But also, historically, Halo games have released in September, so it might well be September.
September? That'd be early, wouldn't it? Announcing the release date just 3 months before.
I mean, it's not as if they haven't done it before.
It's true. And, like, we're going to get onto Bethesda, but Bethesda did that with Fallout 4, didn't they? Which was a huge tentpole release, and they announced that, like, a couple of months before release.
Yeah. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's not as if... It's not like Fallout 4. They are not announcing the game and then saying, oh, by the way, this is out tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Everyone knows it's coming. Everyone knows it's in development. The reason that I would be slightly hesitant about it coming this year, the only reason I think it would be delayed is because the only reason I would be hesitant with saying we're definitely seeing Halo this year is that Halo has kind of struggled the last few entries in the series. Like, they've not been very well received, Halo 4, Halo 5. I'm sorry,
wasn't the last entry in the series Halo Master Chief Collection, and didn't that sell like hotcakes?
Yeah, but that's a collection of... I'm talking about new original Halo games. and the last few haven't been received very well. The ones outside of the ones developed by Bungie haven't really been received very well.
Every Halo game that has been developed by 343 Industries has been a shit show.
Exactly.
At launch, including Halo Master Chief Collection.
I think, first of all, Halo Master Chief Collection was a big way to bring the brand back, but this one is their big one, that they need to be incredible to really bring that brand where it needs to be. And I think if Microsoft aren't happy with where it is this year, they will delay it again because they know they need to get it right.
True. This is very accurate, and they are in a position where pushing it another year won't be. It is not their be all and end all for this year. You know, they are not sat there with their hands open waiting for the coins to drop from the Halo launch. You know, it's not as if they are banking on Halo launching and making them billions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know. So yeah, I can see that. I don't think it's likely.
No, but that's the only thing making me think it might not release this year. You just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw last year, which is currently below us, you know, whilst it was, I enjoyed what I saw, and there was an awful lot of negative feedback from that. But the core game engine was there. Okay, from what I saw, it needed polish. Now it's had an extra year of polish on top of what it would have had anyway. So I think they open with it, and it'll be spectacular. I can't have imagined they'd have pushed it an entire year, and it would still be in the state that it was this time last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd like to see it open with some gameplay. I'd like to see it, you know, sort of some indication of how the so-called open world is going to work. I'd also like to see some indication of, you know, what sort of story elements there are going to be in the game, because, you know, I'll be honest, I've played a little bit of 4 and none of 5, so I have no idea what the story is at this moment in time, but, you know, it'd be nice to see some sort of indication as to where that is.
And you know me, I've never played a Halo, so story for me is out the window at this point. I don't have a clue what's going on with the world, but I think they're doing this as a jumping on point. And again, I think this is a point where they need to get it right. They need to fire on all cylinders.
Yeah, I mean, Halo 5 was supposed to be a jumping on point for people on the Xbox One. And you've got to remember that the Xbox One had one Halo game. If you take out Halo Master Chief Collection, the Xbox One had one Halo game, whereas the 360 had Halo 3, Halo 4, Reach, ODST, several spin-offs in Halo Wars. It's, you know, Halo is essentially Microsoft's ace in the hole. It should be. It is their prime franchise that should be the epitome of what the console can do.
Master Chief.
Halo Reach was.
Master Chief is Microsoft's Mario.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And, you know, the fact that there was only one Halo game on Xbox One is not only surprising, but also an indication that they don't need to rely on that mascot, on that you know, core bit of software to sell their consoles. I do wonder, and this is something which is probably going to be prevalent across most of the PrE3 coverage that we do. I do wonder about what's going to happen in terms of cross-play and cross-save with the PC. I get this, based on the noises coming out of the industry at the moment, and just the general move towards it. I do wonder if this is going to be the E3 where you know, at the end of every game announcement, they're going to be like, cross-play across all platforms.
We started there like a few years ago, didn't we? With a couple of companies dipping their dipping the toes in the water with crossplay, and it was something like, wasn't it Need for Speed of all things that like was one of the first games.
Need for Speed, the last Need for Speed Heat, I think. It's not the most recent because the most recent was the Hot Pursuit Remastered. Need for Speed Heat came out with no fanfare whatsoever. I played it for hours, loved it, absolutely loved it. And then 18 months after release, they went, oh, by the way, click. Now you can play with everyone. And it's just sort of like, it just came out of nowhere. But the fact that they've been able to implement that is fantastic, and I really hope that there is a real push towards, it doesn't matter what console you're playing on, we want you to play with your friends. So do so. You know, Rocket League does it, Fortnite does it, Warzone does it, Destiny does it, Halo Master Chief Collection does it. It makes little sense to wall off these games to specific communities now.
Yeah, it's becoming less like important what platform you play these multi-platform games on, especially as we move towards these huge multiplayer battle royale games.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's come from. I think a lot of it's come from Battlefield, because they obviously Battlefield were the first ones to go, hey, 64 people in a map. Why not? 120 people in a map. And it got to the point where people were realizing, yeah.
A bit of a tangent, but do you remember?
Maybe.
Do you remember Mag for PS3? Massive action game that had like hundreds of players in a game.
Yes, and that fell on its face because it couldn't keep people playing because the player base wasn't there. Now, Battlefield, the player base is there, but if you've got that player base split across PC, Xbox, PlayStation,
it's difficult to keep
people
them
to connect with. So it's very much a case of, as these games get bigger and bigger and bigger, crossplay is going to become more important, and I believe that I think that's probably why we're seeing a move towards it, and why I hope we move towards it further. I would be delighted if I could play FIFA with, a couple of friends from college that I still keep in contact with, because at the moment I can't, because they've got it on Xbox and I've got it on, PC. But that's a more broader
a broader discussion. Yeah, but we are moving towards that, and there's that whole Xbox Play Anywhere business, what they're doing with Game Pass. The Xbox in particular is moving in that direction, and everyone seems to be moving in that direction, which is all positive. You can play with whoever you want. Let's just move on quickly to the other Game Pass titles which have been confirmed that we might see. So first of all, we have Chris Tales, which is like a sort of Paper Mario-esque JRPG sort of thing that I played the demo of and hated, honestly. It's one of those games that looked really appealing to me from its art style, and you would say this is a SamuelCarmody game, and then I played it and I was like, oh, I hate it. I hate the fact that I hate it, but I hate it. We have The Gunk, that was like Luigi's Mansion in space.
Yes, that was last year, wasn't it? And I think we both went, if it works well, then it could be pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, which we could see.
Yep.
We've got Everwild from Rare. Do you think we see Everwild?
I think we've got to see something from Everwild. I'm not sure we get a release date. I think it's probably going to be pushed to 2022. But they can't, having already announced it, they can't have a show without showing what Rare have been working on.
You see, I don't think we see it, because after the conference last year, I can remember the developers being like, look, this is very much a sort of concept right now. This isn't in any sort of state to be released anytime soon, but this is the world, and this is what we're working on. And so I don't think we see it. I don't think we see it until E3 next year.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think so. And then
okay, that's interesting. I'm not sure I would agree with you. I think that you know, despite the fact that it's early in development, they could show either a story trailer or you know, a little bit of alpha gameplay.
See, I see them showing stuff that's coming soon, like relatively soon. But I don't know. We'll just have to see.
Well, I think it's definitely going to be a heavily game-focused conference, isn't it? You know, last year they had 51 different titles that they showed, and like 30 of them were new announcements. So I can imagine them coming out at the beginning and saying that sort of thing again. And I also think there's going to be a big old 4K 60 FPS push.
Definitely for the Series
with a
X.
lot of these things.
Let me just rattle off a few more. As Dusk Falls, which was like a sort of Telltale looking thing. Avowed. I can't remember which one Avowed was.
Avowed was the new Obsidian game.
Oh, it was. Yes.
It was essentially Skyrim New Vegas.
I was going to say, and that's particularly interesting because we both looked at it and we said, okay, that's Obsidian's answer to the Elder Scrolls, and. You know,
and then they went and bought the Elder Scrolls.
And then they went and bought the Elder Scrolls, so it's like, so we're getting both.
So, question about this, okay? Firstly, I've got it in my notes that I reckon we're going to see a story teaser or a gameplay teaser. However, do you reckon that now that they've bought ZeniMax and Bethesda, that all of a sudden Avowed just all of a sudden turns into Elder Scrolls 6?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't think it will either. I just suddenly had that thought, and you know, I don't think it will. I think Avowed in itself looks like it's, you know, from the sounds of it, they've got big old story beats behind it already planned out.
It's Obsidian.
So I would like to see a story teaser.
Yeah, Avowed looked really nice, and Obsidian are great. You know, I've not played it, but Outer Worlds was great and really well received. So,
yes.
Obviously, New Vegas was really well received too, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in a more fantasy setting, but with their own property. Then we had Chorus. Chorus,
yeah. I don't remember what it is, but it's definitely a thing.
It's definitely a thing. We had
definitely a thing.
We had Scorn. We had The Ascent. These are all titles that I've pulled from just from a list of stuff that's coming to Game Pass. So,
Scorn was the weird first-person horror game.
Okay.
That's the one that's inspired by Geiger.
Right. Okay. Fair.
With like melty Cthulhu-esque people.
Then we had The Ascent. Was that another sort of Telltale-esque thing? The Ascent. It wasn't, was it?
The Ascent was a cyberpunk-themed role-playing game. Oh, is that the isometric twin-stick shooter, apparently?
Right, okay.
I remember being really impressed by this and wanting to see more.
We've got an interesting one next, which is Forza Motorsport, which is apparently ditching the numbered title convention.
Okay. Where did you read that?
Online.
Excellent. Right. So I've got Forza 8, Horizon 5, new spin-off, or ditch the numbers, because once you get to 8, it's kind of silly. Maybe they'll name it Forza Motorsport Village or something. But that'll be a big old center bit where, you know, they'll show a car driving around a track and then lower the car from the ceiling and be like, buy this car. Because, you know, that's always what the Forza games are. It's always a case of...
Aren't they great at doing that?
I know, it's just funny. It's, hey, this is the brand new Lamborghini Exige. Put your dick in a lemon and squeeze it until it hurts edition with, you know, salt and pepper overlay. You can buy it for 4.8 billion Zenny. But you could drive it in this game.
Yeah. Yep. It's great how they shoehorn a car advert in there, and it's just to have a nice car on stage, isn't it? That's all that's for. But
I mean, yeah, it is always impressive when they just, sometimes they slide a screen across and the car is just there. Sometimes it comes up from below, and yeah, it's just.
But no matter what
always ridiculous.
No matter what they do with it, it's always slowly spinning.
Yeah.
It's always going to slowly spin. So yeah, Forza Motorsport potentially ditching the numbered title, and then something that you're very, very excited for.
Yes, I'm expecting at least a gameplay trailer for Stalker 2. If not a release date, they did an in-engine demo just before Christmas last year. So I'm expecting sort of further forwards on that. Story trailer would probably be apt, but more Stalker is good Stalker, and if it appears, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, it was announced a couple of days ago that it is a timed 3-month exclusive for Xbox.
Interesting. I didn't know it was timed.
Yes. So yeah, those papers made it out into the open. That actually came to light because of the Gearbox v Apple court case about Fortnite at the moment.
Yeah, the Epic v Apple.
Yeah, what did I say?
Gearbox.
Oh.
Gearbox, Epic,
Look, Epic created Gearbox or the other way around, I don't know, I don't care. All I know is that people know what I was talking about when I said Fortnite.
Absolutely. So then, after Stalker 2, we've got State of Decay 3, which,
yes, zombie deer hunting simulator.
It looked okay.
It looked alright. I've played a bit of State of Decay 1 and 2 since that point because they're both on Game Pass. They're not bad games. It looks impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And, hunting zombies is always fun. One thing I will pull out from this is last year, obviously, we had every E3 has their themes running through it, and last year was deers. A few years ago it was bows. A few years ago it was islands. A few years ago it was procedural generation. What do you reckon this year's E3 is going to be?
It was definitely deers last year. I reckon we had cats a couple of years ago, didn't we? Oh no, cats was last year, wasn't it?
Cats was the Sony conference last year.
Yeah, they had a split. I wonder if we see dogs this year.
Dogs this year.
Wouldn't that be nice?
No. Here we go. Here's what it is. And yes, you can pet the dog.
Oh yes.
That's what it's going to be.
Asking the real questions when it comes to dogs in games.
And I tell you where it's going to be most important. I tell you where it's going to be most important. And I know we're not talking about that this PrE3 Breath of the Wild 2.
Yep.
Because obviously one of the big complaints about the original Breath of the Wild, because there weren't many, was why can't I pet the dog?
Nintendo's just going to open with a hand petting a dog, and you zoom out and it's Link, and then it just says Breath of the Void, and then that's it. Trailer done. But this is a Microsoft show.
We're coming back to that in the Nintendo show because
we are definitely coming back to that. Then we've got Perfect Dark. This is one that's really flown over my head that a Perfect Dark sequel or successor or something is being released and coming out on Game Pass. Do we see that this year?
I don't think we see much of it. I think we see a teaser. I think we see another teaser, perhaps maybe hinting at whether or not it's a sequel or whether or not it's a reboot. There have been 3 Perfect Dark games on 3 different consoles, so they need to do something to sort of indicate whether or not it's a reboot. I imagine it is probably a reboot, but
they need to do something they need to do something for the people like me who saw it and was like, oh yeah, that's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, Microsoft own that because they bought Rare.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm just glad Joanna Dark is coming back.
And then finally on my list, I've got a sort of, I don't want to say indie game because it is like coming to Game Pass. I think it's from like Xbox Game Studios as a whole brand. But 12 minutes looks great. Have you seen a trailer for this?
That's the top-down one that's set in a room, isn't it?
Set in a room, yeah, and like...
And there's a murder that's happened, and you've got 12 minutes to solve it.
There's a murder that's happened, police come outside, you've got 12 minutes to solve it, and then time resets itself. And the first trailer...
I love that concept. I love that concept. They've used it in a few games now, and I just absolutely adore that concept. It's Annapurna, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
It's I believe it's being published by Annapurna, yeah.
It is, yes.
I think it's a single guy that's developing it, but Annapurna are publishing it because, I mean, you look at their history, it just slots straight into their sort of...
It certainly does.
Yeah, it is Annapurna down to the ground.
You see what real... Because I think this game like got a huge boost in budget because I don't remember it having this sort of talent behind it in its initial trailer, and then suddenly Willem Dafoe's in it, James McAvoy's in it, Daisy Ridley's in it. It's got like an all-star Hollywood cast.
Oh no! That was as part of the Xbox conference last year, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was. I think it might have been revealed before that. I think, but I'm not entirely sure. I think that's when they revealed like that it's this big thing with this, like I say, big all-star cast. But I really hope we see more of that because it looks like the perfect Storytime Sunday game.
Interestingly, so the week after E3, wait, when is the week of E3? It's 36 days from now, which would be... It's the 14th through to the 18th, I believe. Okay. So that week as well is the Tribeca Film Festival. And it is one of the 8 games that have been officially selected for the first video game award at the Tribeca Film Festival.
Okay.
It's also selected a game called Harold Halibut from Slow Bros, which is a German developer. Cambridge of Spirits, which isn't surprising. Lost in Random from Zoink, which is an EA original, which we'll probably see at E3. Norco, Sable, Signalis, and The Big Con, which is interesting. So I imagine we'll see all 8 of those at some point over that week. But even if we don't see them at E3, we will be seeing them that week as part of Tribeca.
Yeah. And I think we're going to discuss that in a future episode, what other conferences might be coming as part of the E3 week, but not as part of the E3 schedule. So that's going to be interesting.
And what games will be announced that won't be in the main conferences as well. Yeah.
Have you got any other thoughts on any new games that aren't mentioned here?
Yes, I have many. So I'm expecting a new Gears game to either be announced or, well, it will be an announcement because all of the current in development Gears games are no longer in development. I'm not sure whether it's going to be Gears of War 6. I think it's probably a bit too, maybe a year or year and a half too soon for that, but perhaps another spin-off or maybe Gears Tactics 2, because Gears Tactics seems to have sold well.
Is Gears Gearbox?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's the Collective.
Oh, the Collective. Okay. I was gonna say, would we see maybe instead of Gears a new IP from them, which is from the creators of Gears of War?
Possibly.
Gears is
possibly, but I'm not. I would think it would probably be a new Gears game.
Gears is another one of those franchises, a little bit like how I described Halo, where the last couple of entries haven't been all that well received, and to me, the Gears games very much seem like products of their time. They very much seem.
The reception for Gears 5 was fantastic.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. One moment. I'm just gonna. I mean, the multiplayer is still being played. Favorable reviews, good sales. Game of the Year edition. So, yeah. Retail sales in the UK were 4.5 times less than its predecessor for the week of release.
Yeah, and that's kind of what rather than critic reviews, like sales-wise, it didn't do quite as well. I just don't think
Xbox Game of the Year. And
did it?
Was played by 3 million people in its first weekend.
I might be like misspeaking then. I just didn't think the Gears franchise had the legs that it once did.
No, it's definitely not the game it was back when Gears of War 3 was all the hype.
Mm-hmm. See, to me, Gears of War seems like a very, very Xbox 360 franchise. It's set in a very post-apocalyptic brown and grey world, and it's big guys in mech suits with big guns shooting aliens. It seems like a very, very 360 PS3 era game.
It is a product of its time, isn't it? It's big bulky guys in the Unreal Engine with a over the shoulder cover mechanic shooter.
Mm-hmm. And I've
grey corridors.
No shade on Gears. I've never played it. It's not my type of game really. Yeah, like I say, it seems like a real product of its time. But that's coming from someone who's not played it.
I loved the first game, and I own the second game, but never played it because my brother went to university, so we were co-oping through it. So, so other than Gears, which may happen, so I imagine there's probably going to be a middle spiel about the best on Xbox, talking about sales, number of Xbox Game Pass subs, acquisitions, and then there'll probably be but we're not done yet, and then they'll announce something stupid like Xbox Game Pass on Switch or Cloud or PlayStation.
Ooh, do we see that? Do we see Xbox Game Pass coming to other platforms?
So this is going to be moving on to sort of the Bethesda part of things anyway, because I'm imagining they're going to be one big old conference. I know you don't agree with that, but
well, we'll speak about that in just a minute, but
yeah. So I think the key thing when they were talking about the acquisition of Bethesda, Phil Spencer said Bethesda games will be available on all platforms that have Xbox Game Pass. Very, very specific wording there. Really? I know Microsoft they've always been keen to get, either Xbox Live or whatever on other platforms.
Hey,
I think it's likely, if not this year, then maybe next year.
That we see it on Switch, that we see it on PlayStation.
Yes.
Interesting.
Or on the cloud, downloadable as an app, either on your phone, on your smart TV. I mean, can you imagine that? Xbox Game Pass, you pay $7.99 a month, and you don't need a console. You just have a controller, and it's just streamed from the cloud.
I mean, that's what they're moving towards. Game Pass Ultimate comes with xCloud, which is that. But I wonder if Nintendo will want the Xbox logo all over their eShop. I wonder if PlayStation will want the Xbox logo on PlayStation at all.
If they get a cut of the profits, why would they care?
It's just all about brand recognition, brand loyalty.
Because it won't be a deal. It won't be a deal like, oh yeah, if you get X amount of plays through the console, then we can give you this amount of money. It will be a case of you get a percentage of Xbox Game Pass profit.
Yeah, true.
And if that's the case, then A, they're getting profit for having something on their platform, and they're also, getting profit for things that aren't on their platform.
But if you look at, let's say, because everyone's saying, what is Sony's answer to Xbox Game Pass? If the answer is Sony gets Xbox Game Pass, it sort of seems like a almost waving a white flag. I can see why they would have issue.
No, it wouldn't do. It wouldn't do. Are you kidding? So these people that are split between Xbox sales and buying an Xbox and buying a PlayStation would no longer have to make that decision. You could buy a PlayStation and play Halo on it. You could buy a PlayStation and play Gears of War. You could buy a PlayStation, play Forza. You could buy a PlayStation, play the new Bethesda title.
So then the question switches to, does PlayStation want that, to does Xbox want that? I think there are a lot of factors at play here, and I would be very... I think it makes sense, but I would also be very surprised to see the companies come together like that.
The way I will answer that is I will point you towards the person in charge of those decisions at the moment, which is Phil Spencer, who, for the last 5 years since he took control of Xbox Game Studios, or Xbox as a brand in, has been about the games.
True.
Phil is one cool guy. He is. Microsoft don't get any money from. They get a little bit of money if you buy a pre-bought because Windows is on it. Microsoft do not get any money from Nvidia selling graphics cards.
Yeah,
but they do get money from people playing Xbox Game Pass on PC. Microsoft do not get any money from HyperX selling RAM, but they do get money from people buying Halo Chief Master Collection on Steam. It's about. It's not about selling consoles anymore. It's about being the best place to experience games.
Yeah.
And the best place to experience games, regardless of where you are, they want to say is Xbox.
Yeah.
And if Xbox is on PlayStation, the best place to play games is still Xbox.
And that's been their whole spiel, and that's been what's carrying their brand. Well, now, I was going to say for the past however long, but it's carrying their brand now.
Yeah.
The best place to play.
Yes.
So,
non-Game Pass games.
Do you think we see any?
Yes. So, I've got a couple. So, I've got a load of Bethesda stuff, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
So there are a few titles, a couple that have been announced and a couple that haven't, that I think we might see during this E3, specifically during Microsoft conference. The first one, which I imagine is probably one which you're at least keeping half an eye on, is Elden Ring.
Yep.
Because Elden Ring has dropped off the face of the earth.
Except
much like, George R.R. Martin's other project, A Song of Ice and Fire. It's not entirely surprising. We may never see it, but...
There was that trailer that leaked, which looked incredible for Elden Ring.
Yes. And I think now is the time for it to pop back up. And I think probably the Xbox conference is going to be where it'll be.
You see, I think the Xbox conference, they want to say what they've said. I think they said it last year, what they always say now. All of these games are available day one on Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, that's the only thing which is making me think about this.
And
then, so the next one is definitely not going to be that then.
What's that then? What were you going to say?
I'm not even going to say it. I will save that. Hey, come back in 3 episodes' time when we talk about games that could be appearing elsewhere. Wink.
Wink you. So that brings us nicely, first of all, to the ZeniMax acquisition, where Xbox Game Studios now has 24 studios under that umbrella. 24. A few years ago, we were saying where are all the Xbox first parties? They've bought them all.
They've bought them all, yeah. So this is interesting. I know you think there's going to be a separate conference.
Do you want to know? Do you want to know exactly what I think? And this has been rumored as well. I think it might have been Jeff Grubb who sort of who sort of claimed this. I'm not entirely
ignore
sure.
Jeff Grubb. He's just the friend of the guy that plays Cuphead badly.
But I think they have two separate conferences. They have a marked divide between the Xbox and the Bethesda conference. It's a change of pace, but it's in one stream. Whether they have a short break in between each one and like a come back in 5 minutes and we'll have the Bethesda conference, I think there is very much an Xbox conference and a Bethesda conference, but I think they're packaged in a way that maybe at the end of the Xbox conference they say something like, and now we'll move over to our partners over at ZeniMax and Bethesda, and that's how they do it.
Okay.
What do you think?
I made a note on this in the document saying that the elephant in the room is obviously whatever they're called, Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop.
Deathloop, yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Do they appear at the Bethesda conference?
So there's a couple of things there. So you've already mentioned about the fact that Microsoft would like to say everything is available on Game Pass day one. The key thing to mention about these is the fact that they are fair enough. They are PlayStation exclusives for a year, but they are PlayStation console exclusives. Okay, there is nothing stopping them releasing it on PC on the same day, which they probably are going to, and then Microsoft sitting there and going, everything is on Game Pass day one release, because that is true. Day one release on PC, it's on Game Pass. Day one release on Xbox, it's on Game Pass.
I was listening to a Kinda Funny podcast, and they mentioned this exact point that if it comes out on PC and it's day one Game Pass for PC, that'd be a really cheeky move, wouldn't it?
I mean, it would be, but the note which I've put is everything can be on Game Pass day one, but not everything on Game Pass is available everywhere. And that is how I can see them getting around it, saying, hey, we're releasing it on this date, and then a year later. But doesn't matter. We're releasing it on this date. Xbox Game Pass, PC.
Yeah, that, as I say, that'd be really, really cheeky. But
it would.
If they can do it, they probably will.
The alternative is what I mentioned earlier, which is Game Pass on PlayStation, which they can then say available on Game Pass day one
on PlayStation.
Game Pass is on PlayStation. Game Pass is on PC. But I'm not sure. That's the only reason why I would imagine that they would split the conferences, is so that they can talk about Ghostwire Tokyo and they can talk about Deathloop. However,
go
on. No, you go. You were gonna.
I was going to say the alternative to that. If none of this happens, and if they don't do the whole, because it is a loophole of putting it on Game Pass for PC,
it's not wrong.
If they don't do that, do they just say to Bethesda, look, don't worry about this, don't market this, let Sony do it? Do they just let Sony spend the money marketing it?
We don't know what the contents of the exclusivity contract are.
We don't know.
However, I mean, maybe. I think personally that the Bethesda part will be a sub. It will be probably after the middle spiel about best on Xbox, because they can talk about the new acquisitions and there'll probably be a small part where they announce a load of delightful indie titles where I sit there and I go like again soundtrack.
We both gush about like how beautiful and arty and weird these things are.
and then 2 years down the line when they're released, we just never play them.
We don't tell
No,
people that
I
bit.
think it'll be after that. They'll talk about what their independent game studios are doing, and then they'll go, and now to one of our new, more recent acquisitions. Todd Howard walks out, announces Doom 3.
Only on Xbox.
Only on Xbox. A PrE sequel, only on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
The Evil Within 3, only on Xbox. New Wolfenstein title, only on Xbox. Oh, by the way, here's an Arcane title. You think it's Deathloop? No, Dishonored 3, only on Xbox. Game Pass day one.
How ridiculous is this acquisition?
It is. I mean, that's not even all of the titles. Starfield, only on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Elder Scrolls 6, only on Xbox.
I've heard a lot of discourse about people saying, because Phil Spencer has said something. Oh, was it Phil Spencer? I'm sure. I don't know. Anyway,
It's what I said earlier. Phil Spencer has said new Bethesda titles will be available on platforms where Xbox Game Pass is available.
Yeah. But what was I going to say? You know when you have a thought and then it just goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So people still seem to think that Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, because they were announced however long ago, are going to come to PlayStation.
So this was mentioned earlier in the chat, wasn't it?
I absolutely disagree with that.
So the what I would throw at that is, Sam, you remember when they announced Starfield, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you remember sitting in my living room and watching them announce Starfield, yeah?
Yep.
Which consoles did they say they were releasing Starfield on?
I didn't see anything. I can't remember seeing anything.
You remember shortly after that when they said, "I know you've been waiting for this," and then they did that nice panning shot over the Elder Scrolls world, and Elder Scrolls 6 just sort of popped up.
No logos on where it would.
What consoles was that being developed for?
Yeah, no promises, as far as I remember.
You know, there have been many games. Got one last one. What is it? Is it Drakengard? No, it's not
There
Drakengard.
was something like that, wasn't there?
There's the weird dragon game that was developed by Platinum Games. That was pretty much ready for launch on Xbox. Scalebound. There we go. That end up releasing on Xbox?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
No, I didn't. But it was announced, wasn't it? It was announced for Xbox and developed in conjunction with Xbox Game Studios, but just
listen. I've spoken a lot about like brand loyalty and exclusivity and just the power of branding. Xbox having exclusivity to not only Starfield, which is obviously a new IP, but the Elder Scrolls is absolutely incredible, and Microsoft will not give that up.
I don't think they advertise it that way. I think Phil Spencer's being very, very clever with his wording on things, and I don't think we hear Xbox console exclusive throughout the entire console conference.
Maybe
I
not.
don't think we hear that. I think what we hear is Xbox Game Pass exclusive.
Yes. Yeah.
Because he is actively leaving the door open for Sony to come and go, "Can we have Game Pass, please?"
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? Game Pass on Switch, Game Pass on PlayStation.
Yeah, you can play your Xbox titles anywhere. Hang on, wait. Haven't they got a brand like that? Xbox Play Any? So that's what I think is going to happen with Bethesda, and that's what I think is going to happen with the majority of the conference. It's not going to be only on Xbox. It's not going to be Xbox console exclusive, Xbox timed console exclusive. It's going to be Xbox Game Pass exclusive.
And that's what they've said. Every year, that's what they've said. Everything you've seen today is available day one as part of your Xbox Game Pass subscription. They've said it again and again and again. So
Yeah.
that's the spiel. That's the phrase that they're trying to ingrain it into our minds, and it's working. It's absolutely working.
Yeah.
Because I've said it about 2 or 3 times already in this podcast.
Yeah, so have I. And, you know, it makes it very difficult to do this conference because there are a number of games which would be... In years gone past, there are a number of games that would have been announced at this conference. But you're right. I think it's going to be just games that are available at Xbox Game Pass day one. So unless they've negotiated, you know, for example, Elden Ring, unless they've negotiated Elden Ring being on Game Pass from day one, it won't be shown at their conference, which makes a number of the titles which I have on my list null and void, which I will bring up at a later point. One of the ones which I have on here, though, and this is an interesting one because there is an expansion / DLC upgrade coming for the PlayStation 5, which has another console exclusivity period.
Final
but the previous
Fantasy VII.
Previous console exclusivity period has expired. So do we see Final Fantasy VII Remake on Xbox Game Pass?
I think there's every chance.
I think there is as well. It won't be that big old wow factor, but the fact that there has been a PC release rumored for donkey's years, we could see Final Fantasy VII on Game Pass.
Was Final Fantasy VII 2019 or 2020?
2019, yeah.
2019.
No, it wasn't. It was last year.
Is it last year?
Because it was on my best. Yeah, it was on my best of.
Right.
Best of 2020 list.
Yeah, it was on so many people's best of 2020 list, and so to get that on Game Pass, you know, as soon as it stops being a console exclusive, would be huge.
Yeah, I mean, it is no longer console exclusive. The exclusivity ran out in April, which because it was released obviously in April. Yeah, it was on my best of 2020 list without playing it. That's how much I enjoyed that game. I've not played it, and it's on my best of 2020 list.
Has Intergrade got a console exclusivity?
Yes, that's what I was saying. Yes, that's what I was saying. It's got a 12-month exclusivity period. That's
a strange one, isn't it?
Yes, and I mean, yeah, it is weird. It's like, okay, yeah, you can have the original Final Fantasy VII Remake, but you can't have the DLC.
And it's a strange one because, like, Intergrade is also, like, packaging with it the sort of next gen, current gen upgrade, isn't it? I believe. And so, does that mean the next gen / current gen upgrade is a console exclusive for a year? It's a really weird thing that I'm not sure.
It all depends on the wording of the exclusivity contract.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that they would lock high definition textures behind an exclusivity contract. Actually, what the hell am I talking about? Of course I can see them locking textures behind an exclusivity contract. They've done worse.
They have. They certainly have done worse.
I'm spitballing here. The real reason why I've put this on my list is because I want to play Final Fantasy VII on my PC.
Yep.
It's the only reason. It's the only reason. I don't want to buy a PS5. I want to play it on PC. Fair enough. Okay.
Do you have any? Do you have any more thoughts on what we see from Bethesda?
Yes. So, there are a lot of reports coming out at the moment. I don't know if you've seen about the fact that Starfield is going to be an Xbox exclusive. Again, I don't think they're going to advertise it that way. They're going to advertise it as Xbox Game Pass exclusive.
Yeah.
I think we are probably going to see a gameplay trailer and a release date for that. Or at least a tentative release date if it's not, that far in development.
Mhm.
If we are getting gameplay and a release date, I can imagine it closing out the conference. But then again, I can imagine I can imagine 3 different things closing out the conference, one of which we haven't mentioned yet. I also think we are potentially going to see at least the title announcement for the Elder Scrolls 6. I personally think it's probably going to be elsewhere, because we haven't had an elsewhere-based game since Arena. And that region was really well received when it came out on Elder Scrolls Online.
Elsewhere is really weird. Elsewhere is where the Khajiit are from, isn't it?
Yes.
My favourite race. Those cat people
Yeah.
are adorable.
Yeah, so if I have an entire region where I can go around killing cat people, fantastic. There's also a part of me which wonders if maybe they're going to go back to Morrowind. Have a half remake, half new game sort of thing. Because there's always been a lot of calls to buff up Morrowind and do a Morrowind remaster or a remake. And Elder Scrolls 6 Morrowind would be interesting. I don't think it's likely, but again, that's another that I can see potentially closing out the conference.
So
if it's announced.
Here's where I'm at with Elder Scrolls 6. I think they've got a tough job on their hands, a very tough job, because the Elder Scrolls is nowhere near as much of a household name as Skyrim is. And how do they package Elder Scrolls 6 as Skyrim 2?
I don't think they need to. You are talking about the company that. Okay, so I would say they had the same problem when they released Skyrim.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, because nobody. The Elder Scrolls is not as big a name as Oblivion.
No, that's true, but
Oblivion was a household name among gamers. Now Skyrim is a household name among gamers. So will Elder Scrolls 6. Doesn't matter what the hell they call it. They are not going to have any problem with brand synergy there.
Maybe not. But Oblivion was nowhere near the huge phenomenon that Skyrim was, to the point where Bethesda were memeing about it, and you can play Skyrim on your Amazon Echo.
That's what I thought you were going to say. The big problem was going to be it's going to take a lot to develop Elder Scrolls 6 for your Alexa.
It is.
Oh, you've already done it. Good.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I get where you're coming from, and from a non-gaming standpoint, yes, I get it. From a gaming standpoint, it's like Marvel releasing Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings later this year.
True.
It is a Marvel film. It is an Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah, it's in the MCU, so they won't have any trouble marketing it. It's part of first of all, it's part of the Bethesda brand, the Elder Scrolls brand. They won't have any trouble marketing it. Moreover, it's now part of the Microsoft brand, the Xbox Game Pass brand. Microsoft are going to market the shit out of this, and they're going to say Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive to Xbox Game Pass.
I mean, for crying out loud, they announced the damn game without a title, with just a casual just flyby of, for all intents and purposes, it could have been any random field in Oblivion. That's how they announced the damn game. It's not that they're not going to struggle to sell it. It's not going to struggle to sell. It's going to be. If we don't see it, I won't be surprised. But if we do see it, I can see it being a small teaser with a title announcement.
So Dan, we've been going an hour according to my recording. What are your final thoughts? What do we see?
I've got one more thing.
Oh, go on.
So you may have noticed those keen-eyed of you, and I'm not blaming Sam that he didn't notice me shuffle it to the bottom of the list when when he was talking about his Game Pass titles. The keen observer of you will have noticed a very, very distinct fantasy RPG missing from our Xbox Game Pass list of titles.
It rhymes with table.
Yes, and Mabel. This is what... So Elder Scrolls 6, probably about a 5% chance of it closing the conference. Starfield, probably 25% chance of it closing the conference. Halo, probably 10%. 60%. So the one which I feel most certain about is that they close, as they did last year, with Fable, with a gameplay reveal, a story teaser with confirmation of whether or not it's a reboot or whether this is going to be Fable 4. And just, yeah. And blowing everybody away with the fact that, oh yeah, it's like what Peter Molyneux promised all those years ago. But it's not Peter Molyneux promising it, so it's probably going to work.
And do you know why I disagree with that?
Because you don't feel like it's going to be far enough in development to have any sort of gameplay.
The same reason as Everwild. The same reason we haven't seen Metroid Prime 4 yet, other than just a logo. The same reason we haven't seen Breath of the Wild 2 yet, other than a small cinematic. I think that game was a, look, Fable is coming. Don't worry about it, it's in development. And I think if we see anything, it's a, and we still have all these games in development, splash screen, loads of logos, Fable being one of them, and they're all coming day one to Xbox Game Pass.
I can see that, but given the cinematic they showed last year, I can't see them going through the conference without at least a story trailer.
Maybe.
Yeah, for crying out loud, it could just be pages looking in a book with a voiceover.
Maybe, but again, for me, just for me, I think that and Everwild are really enough in development that there's nothing substantial to show there. We get a logo on a splash screen, and it appears at next year's E3.
Okay, fair enough.
But hands up, I'm happy to be wrong.
Yeah, I can see both being likely. That's why it's only at 60%. So that's a question. Then, what do you think they're going to close with?
Ooh, I think they close with something we haven't seen yet, in the same vein as how they closed with Fable last year, and that could be, like you said earlier, that could be a new Gears game, that could be a new IP, but with a from the creators of, and just one of their 24 studios that we don't know what they're working on. I think it's a big surprise that no one will have seen coming.
Yeah, I think that's likely.
And it's not something we see this year. It's not something we see shadow dropped. It's something that we see in a couple of years' time. It's missing from next year's E3. We'll be asking questions next year, like what we've asked today about Fabled, about this project that we hear at the end.
Yeah. So the next question is that going to be a Bethesda developed thing?
It could be. It very much could be. New IP from Bethesda. It could be Starfield, because even that would be a surprise, because all we've had is a. We've not had much from Starfield, have we?
We've had a logo and a skybox.
Yeah, absolutely. So you think they're going to end with Fable?
I think it'll either be Fable or Starfield. Yeah, but what I can see them doing, and it really, really irks me that I've only just thought of this, and it's actually perfect. It's Phil Spencer standing either on stage or in front of a camera, or however they're doing this conference, and just coming out and going, and that's our show. Although, you might have a question. Phil, why did Xbox buy Bethesda? They're a big publisher in their own right. What could have possessed you to do that? This is why. Big old new IP doing,
Yeah.
doing shiny magic.
Which again could be Starfield.
Which could be Starfield, could be anything.
Mm-hmm. So final question for me is, how do you think the conference is going to go? What are your final thoughts on how it goes with the split between Xbox and Bethesda?
I think they'll put Bethesda somewhere in the middle. Todd Howard will come out and talk all things Bethesda, including putting Skyrim on a post-it note, because, that's what he does. It's going to be incredibly heavily game-focused because, obviously, they've got the console out. Now, they don't need to focus on the hardware. They just need to focus on, this is the best place to play games. But again, it's not going to be Xbox. The game console is the best place to play games. It's just going to be Xbox is the best place to play games. Everything you see here is available Xbox Game Pass day one.
Xbox is far more than just a console. It's a brand. It's a platform that
it's a
goes
lifestyle.
beyond the box.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what they close with. Xbox is more than a console. But I reckon there's also going to be a lot of people going, available natively in 4K 60 FPS.
Yep.
And then there'll probably be a couple of mentions at a 1080p 120 FPS option, because they seem to be pushing that for lower resolutions,
which is fun.
Which is great. A lot of crossplay talk, and hopefully a shit ton of awesome looking games.
Hopefully. And Microsoft,
what about you? What do you reckon?
Microsoft are great at that, just bringing game after game after game for the last couple of years.
Last few years, yeah, they've just knocked it out the park.
I think it goes in the grand scheme of things. I think we get obviously a big opener, and then Xbox, Phil Spencer, all this, and then I think there is an end to that conference, but there is a shift towards Bethesda. I think they keep them separate for now, but in a way where they're integrated as well on the same stream.
Yeah, so I reckon if they do that, then they start the Bethesda bit talking about the 2 PlayStation timed exclusives, and then Phil Spencer comes back on with Todd Howard and then just talks about what is coming new to Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, absolutely. So that has been. Oh, sorry.
But yeah, I mean, we'll definitely see. Obviously, the conferences, or conference singular, haven't been announced yet. Normally, Microsoft tend to be on the Sunday. Normally it's over the weekend. So they're normally first, aren't they? So that's normally Saturday lunchtime for us, or Saturday early for people in America. But regardless of when it is, we will be covering it.
We will.
It's 36 days until E3 from the point where we're streaming this. It is 30 days from when we are putting this on the YouTubes. But we'll be there.
So that has been our Video Games and Chill PrE3 coverage for Microsoft and Bethesda, the first episode. We are going to have this on our YouTube channel, which I should have readied a link for.
Yes, it is youtube.com/video games and chill. I don't think it is it?
It's not. No, that won't be the link. Oh no. Should we do a proper YouTube outro? So, subscribe if you'd like to catch the rest of our PrE3 coverage, and if you want to watch along live, like all these wonderful folks have in the Twitch chat, then the link to both of our Twitch channels will be in the description as well.
Indeed. We will be streaming this streaming this. We've got 3 more episodes planned. Next up is going to be talking pretty much exclusively about the Nintendo conference. That's going to be.
Let's go, baby, Nintendo.
It's going to be doing stuff. I've got a number of things to add. There's a reason why Nintendo is going to be in a conference on its own, much like Microsoft is. Then after that, we've got Ubisoft, EA, and Square Enix, who all 3 have been confirmed to have conferences. And then after that, essentially it's miscellaneous.
Yeah, so then after Nintendo, it's essentially third parties. Then after that, it's essentially people who aren't confirmed at E3, but we might see something from them. Like Sony's a perfect example.
Yeah, like Warner Brothers are at E3, but we'll talk about games that they're developing probably in that 4th bit.
Yeah. Right. That's it for the YouTube, guys.
Woo, YouTube!
Oh, we can relax. We're hanging out with Twitch chat now.
Whoa! Hello, Twitch chat. Nice to see you.